A group of friends entered the forest to look for traces of an ancient civilization. But deep inside the woods, they stumbled upon a sealed cave. The entrance was blocked by a stone slab, but that didn't stop them from opening it. They brought dynamite, and when the explosion echoed through the woods, the slab rolled away, revealing a dark tunnel. Inside, they saw mysterious wall paintings depicting strange symbols and the figure of a frightening creature. One of the girls then remembered an old legend. She said that many years ago, a father and his daughter had entered the same cave and were never seen again. That's why the locals sealed the entrance. Overcome with a sudden surge of courage, Bond and his team continued deeper into the cave. They soon noticed scattered bones and more cryptic carvings. But before they could decipher them, a loud sound echoed through the cavernous space. All the hair on their arms stood up and goosebumps covered their skin. The noise grew louder and louder, and panic began to spread among the group. Suddenly, something large and terrifying emerged from the shadows. It was too late for them to escape. And before they knew what had happened, chaos erupted inside the cave. 2 months later, Ranger Claire sat alone in her watchtower. Her best friend Ellen had gone missing while on duty in this very same forest. She clutched Ellen's pendant, the only thing left of her friend, and stared out at the woods. A single tear rolled down her cheek as she remembered their last conversation. At that moment, her parrot began squawking loudly, startling her. The bird mimicked sounds from the forest, and Claire could hear the crackling of a campfire in its voice. Just then, her boss, Rick, called her through a video chat. His face was grim as he informed her about a massive forest fire in the northern section. He explained that all the other rangers were busy with the situation and that she would have to manage the tower alone for a while. Claire sighed and nodded, even though Rick couldn't see her. She understood the gravity of the situation. Her region was prone to forest fires, and this one was spreading rapidly. But as Rick continued speaking, she heard a strange gurgling sound in the background. Rick? What's that noise?" she asked, her gaze fixed on the screen. Rick apologized for the interruption. "Oh, that's just the sound from Devil's Dam," he said. "You know, the recent heavy rains have caused quite a bit of wear and tear. There are some cracks in the dam, so you'll need to release water daily to reduce the pressure." Claire nodded again, but her mind was elsewhere. She had been monitoring the dam since the incident and had grown accustomed to the sound. But recently, the sound had changed, becoming louder and more ominous. Rick cleared his throat, bringing her back to the present. "Also, a few campers have gone missing in the area. If you notice anything unusual, please keep me updated." Claire felt a surge of anger. She slammed her laptop shut, causing the video chat to end abruptly. She was tired of being treated like a rookie. Sure, she was new to the job, but she was eager to prove herself. However, no one seemed to trust her. As she stood up, her parrot flew onto her shoulder and nudged her cheek with its beak. Looking out into the darkening forest, she knew that tonight would be a long one. In the heart of a dense and dark forest, a solitary woman named Claire collapses from exhaustion. Seeking solace, she drifts off to sleep, only to be jolted awake by a horrifying vision. In her dream, she witnesses the terrifying accident that claimed the life of her dear friend Ellen, a tragic event that continues to haunt her. As she opens her eyes, Claire is greeted by the sight of her parrot, Sunny, who is usually vibrant and full of life. But now the bird is cowering, and its feathers are ruffled in a state of fright. Startled by Sunny's demeanor, Claire listens intently, trying to decipher the source of the commotion. Her ears are attuned to every creak and whisper of the wind, but it's the silence that startles her the most. Mustering her courage, Claire decides to investigate. As she approaches her cabin, she notices something that sends a chill down her spine. Large claw marks etched into the wooden door as if left by some wild animal. Fear momentarily paralyzes her, but curiosity and the need for answers propel her forward. With trembling hands, she tries the doorknob only to find that it is locked from the outside. A wave of panic washes over her as she realizes she is trapped. But then she hears it again. A sound like heavy footsteps followed by what might have been a growl. It was definitely a wild animal. As she cautiously makes her way back to the tower, she hears movement in the bushes. Claire's imagination runs wild, conjuring images of menacing creatures lurking in the shadows. She dismisses the thought as silly, telling herself that it was probably just a bear. Upon returning to the tower, Claire seeks comfort in the familiar surroundings. She shares a close bond with Sunny, who often acts as her emotional support, and the parrot's presence is a source of solace. The following morning, Claire's ex-boyfriend, Justin, arrives at the tower. He had been away for a while, working on a project in another city. Over time, he and Claire had drifted apart, but their shared love for the environment and the memories of their past brought them back together. He, too, notices the claw marks and a sense of unease settles upon him. Despite trying to appear strong and composed, his gaze reveals his growing concern for Claire's well-being. After their conversation, Claire attempts to shake off Justin's worries, assuring him that it was probably just a bear. However, as the hours pass, the unsettling feeling of being watched persists. Later that day, Justin and Claire decide to inspect the dam. Throughout their time together, there's an undeniable chemistry between them, but it's overshadowed by the looming sense of danger. As they walk, Claire opens up to Justin, sharing the guilt she's been carrying since Ellen's accident. She admits that she hasn't been sleeping well, and the nightmares have been tormenting her. Justin, being the caring and supportive person he is, offers words of comfort and understanding. He reassures Claire that it wasn't her fault, and that Ellen would have understood. But as the night progresses, the atmosphere around the tower takes a sinister turn. Heavy footsteps are heard on the roof, as if someone or something is walking back and forth. Claire and Justin exchange worried glances, their earlier playful banter now replaced by a heavy silence. Suddenly, one of the lines connecting to the tower's communication system is found cut, adding to the mystery and danger that seems to be surrounding them. Claire's parrot, Sunny, who had been quiet until now, begins to panic, squawking and flapping its wings in distress, as if sensing a threat outside. Justin, ever the pragmatist, suggests that they keep watch in turns so they can be prepared if whatever is outside tries to get in. Despite their fear, they manage to make it through the long and terrifying night. The following morning, they decide to leave the tower and head back to civilization. But as Justin starts the Jeep, they discover that the radio is destroyed, adding to the growing list of strange occurrences. At the dam, they find even more of their equipment has been damaged, leading them to believe that someone or something is deliberately trying to sabotage them. Meanwhile, an elderly couple who had been wandering in the woods are nowhere to be found. Their disappearance adds another layer of mystery to the already unsettling situation. When Claire and Justin finally return to the tower, they find more disturbing signs that someone has been there. All these frightening events leave them questioning their sanity and fearing that they may not be alone in the vast and unforgiving wilderness. With each passing moment, the forest seems to close in on them, and their desperate search for answers becomes a race against time. Last we checked in with Claire, she had made the decision to stay awake all night so that she could face the strange creature that had been haunting her and Justin's every move since they arrived at the cabin in the woods. Of course, being exhausted and with sleep deprivation setting in, she eventually drifted off. Meanwhile, Justin was making his way through the forest when he was suddenly confronted by the very same creature that had been stalking them. It was a horrifying moment, and the last one he would ever see because moments later, he never returned. Now, the next morning, Claire awoke with the hope that maybe, just maybe, things might actually be better. Maybe the creature had lost interest in her and Justin's bloodline, or maybe it was sated after consuming Justin's life essence. Well, Claire got out of bed and made her way to the window. She was pleased to see that the sky was no longer filled with ominous clouds, and the sun was shining brightly as if nothing unusual had happened the night before. Perhaps it really was going to be a good day. She left the tower and started walking toward the cabin, but she quickly stopped in her tracks when she noticed that the lock on the front door was broken. Hesitantly, she pushed the door open and stepped inside. The interior of the cabin seemed strangely disordered, as if someone had rummaged through everything in a frantic and unsettling manner. There were marks on the walls that Claire had never seen before, strange symbols that looked disturbingly like claw marks. A chill ran down her spine, and a wave of nausea swept over her as she realized with a growing dread that the creature had not only visited the cabin, it had done so just recently. The air hung heavy with the stench of decay, and a fine layer of dust covered every surface. In the corner, a rocking chair swayed gently as if propelled by an unseen force. As Claire cautiously approached, the chair abruptly stopped. With a creak, a single word was scrawled on the dusty floorboards beneath the chair. "Run!" It spelled out in what looked like blood. And there was another message too, one meant for Claire. Her blood ran cold as she read the chilling words. "You cannot hide. You will die." Whoever had written this knew her, and Justin's fate was sealed. Panic surged through her, but Claire forced herself to remain calm. She had to think clearly. She couldn't let fear overpower her. Shaking off the paralyzing terror, she made a decision. She wouldn't run anymore. She would face the monster. Back at the tower, Claire set about preparing traps using empty cans and bells. If the creature approached, the noise would alert her. Then she sent Roper, her parrot, to scout ahead. The bird ruffled its feathers, sensing danger, and flew out the window. Just as Claire had hoped, Roper soon returned, alarmed and squawking frantically. Something was near. Claire grabbed her rifle, her heart pounding. Suddenly, large, dark hands shook the tower. The creature was outside. Claire rushed to the window just in time to see a shadowy figure vanish. She fired several shots into the darkness, but the forest remained silent except for the sound of her own breathing. Had she missed? Or did the creature have a means of disappearing into the shadows? The next morning dawned stormy and gray. Lightning flashed, momentarily illuminating the desolate landscape. Claire descended the tower, her eyes scanning the ground. She discovered strange green liquid, a telltale sign of the creature's presence. Wiping a hand across the damp earth, she followed the trail. It led her back to the mouth of the cave where their ordeal began. Just as she stepped inside, a man emerged from the darkness. Startled, Claire raised her rifle. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. "My name is Joseph," the man replied, stepping into the dim light. "I am a professor of Native American Studies." He paused, his gaze fixed on some unseen point in the distance. "Months ago," he continued, his voice low, "my colleagues and I entered this cave. We were hoping to find artifacts, perhaps some insight into the history of this place. Among us was Professor Ban." Joseph's voice cracked slightly. "But we never saw him again. Some of us emerged from the cave, shaken and injured, but none of us had any memory of what had happened inside. I came back searching for answers, hoping to find whatever took Ban from us." Joseph turned, his eyes meeting Claire's. "Whatever it is, it's still here," he said grimly. The scene opens with Joseph running for his life, pursued by a mysterious and terrifying creature. He stumbles and falls, desperately clutching his ankle, which is clearly injured. As he looks back, we see the beast is mere feet away, its eyes glowing ominously in the darkness. Joseph runs to a nearby waterfall and jumps into its basin, but instead of providing relief, the water seems to enrage the creature, causing it to thrash wildly. Joseph takes this chance to escape. He soon comes across Claire, who's tending to some equipment near a truck. Joseph, out of breath, reveals the legend. Long ago, some sorcerers had summoned this very creature from the underworld, but when they couldn't control it, they trapped it here near the waterfall, knowing that its one weakness, water, could hold it back. But now the seal is broken, and the beast is loose. He warns Claire that the being is drawn to fear and negative emotions, playing with its prey like a cat with a mouse. It can't be killed easily, but it can be hurt. With that grim warning, Joseph collapses, succumbing to his injuries. Claire, shaken but resolute, heads back to the tower. As she does, ominous music swells, hinting at the danger lurking in the shadows. Suddenly, she spots more horrifying signs that the creature has been there while she was gone. Fearful but determined, she makes her way to the top of the tower. Storm clouds gather as Claire anxiously waits. Remembering Joseph's words about water, she hopes the rain will help her. But the storm fades and the creature appears once more, causing Claire to run for cover. Like a relentless predator, it chases her through the woods, occasionally stopping to toy with her, only to vanish into the undergrowth, keeping just out of her sight. As the creature continues to stalk her, the full moon shines brightly in the sky, casting long shadows on the forest floor. Suddenly, the beast makes a move, leaping out from behind a tree and cornering Claire. But just as quickly, it disappears into the night, leaving Claire trembling in its wake. At this point, realizing the gravity of the situation, Claire calls her boss, Rick, desperately pleading for help. She tells him that everyone is gone and that something is hunting her. However, Rick, initially skeptical, promises to arrive in the morning. When Rick finally shows up, he seems unconcerned, even going so far as to insist on checking the dam. On their way, they come across Joseph's lifeless body, but Rick remains focused on his task. Before Claire can process what's happened, the creature suddenly appears, knocking Rick to the ground. Despite Claire's pleas for him to run, Rick is pulled toward the darkness and vanishes from sight. Now in a panic, Claire jumps into the Jeep and tries to escape. The creature, however, seems to sense her fear and appears in front of the vehicle, blocking her path. Undeterred, Claire drives straight toward it, but as she collides with the beast, it only comes back stronger, actually climbing onto the hood of the car. At this critical moment, Claire spots the cave entrance, and with a burst of adrenaline, she turns the wheel and drives straight into it. The narrow passageway forces the creature to retreat back into the darkness. Seizing this opportunity, Claire quickly exits the cave and runs to safety. She then lights some dynamite, hurls it toward the beast, and runs as fast as she can. As the cave collapses behind her, Claire knows that she has sealed the monster inside. With her mission accomplished, she returns to the tower one last time. There she releases the last of the dam's water, fulfilling her duty. Then she walks away from the tower, leaving her post forever. In the end, the story is one of courage and sacrifice. Despite being initially afraid, Claire confronts her fears and ultimately helps to save countless lives by sealing the monster back in its cave.